Welcome to our session all about the Sonlight Connections community and all of the resources that Sonlight offers that make it easier for you to homeschool. We do more than sell curriculum. We also help you along on that homeschool journey. And so Amber and I are going to highlight some of those resources that Sonlight offers, but let's start with some introductions. Amber, for those who haven't met you yet, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Amber Severance. I have 5 children. I've graduated 4 from high school and actually a few from college. And I used Sonlight starting in pre-K with my first child. And so I've used Sonlight along the way. Currently, I travel for Sonlight in the summers to conventions to answer questions for moms and or dads, and also serve as a mentor on Sonlight's app, which we'll be telling you more about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here, Amber. If this is your first session of the day, we have had different sessions all day long, so you've already met me there. But if not, my name is Sunny, and I am Sonlight's community manager, and I'm also a Sonlight mom of 2 kids who I've educated since preschool with Sonlight. They are now, one just finished her freshman year of high school, and then my other one just finished his 4th grade year. So I have 1 daughter, 1 son, elementary and high school. So let's jump right into all the different resources Sonlight offers. One of the main reasons that I chose Sonlight when I was looking for a curriculum was the instructor's guide, because it really spelled out to me how I was going to teach, right? Because I did not come from a teaching background and didn't know what I needed to teach or how to teach it. And Sonlight's instructor's guides really helped me out. So we'll dive into more detail with those later. But what's another great resource that Sonlight offers?
Yeah, in the last few years, Sonlight has put a lot of effort into developing their Sonlight Connections app. And so that's a really great community for anyone, especially those who are brand new to Sonlight. You get put into a newbies group, and you have about 6 mentors who are available to you at any time. And it's just been a really wonderful way for moms and homeschoolers to connect with each other and also get advice and help when they need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're not part of the app, we will drop the link in the comments for you as well so that you can join us in the app and get all sorts of things like what we're doing today all year long. Another way Sonlight helps you is through our advisors and our customer relations team. So they are going to be super helpful if you are trying to figure out maybe what levels to order for your kids, or maybe you found a misprint in your instructor's guide and you want to report that, or if you have any issue with your order at all. So if you don't get a book you're supposed to, or if you're waiting on maybe something back ordered and you have questions, those teams are available through the phone, chat, email, basically any way that you would want to reach out and contact them. And whatever preferred communication method, they are available to answer those questions and help you. And Sonlight's customer service team is top notch. So if you ever have an issue, definitely don't sit there and just stew about it. Let us know. We will make it right. What's another thing that we offer, Amber, that maybe other curriculum companies don't?
Yeah, I love that Sonlight offers online events, and it's not an overwhelming number, but they seem to come at really good times. So, and I'll say this, even though Sunny's right here with me, Sunny and the marketing team do an amazing job coming up with topics. So once a month, there's a program called Homeschool Helps and Hacks that will hit on maybe some things that are typical struggles for homeschoolers, but it runs the gamut from like discipline issues to school issues to questions about curriculum, all sorts of things. So that is a once a month offering. And then Sonlight also offers about twice a year a big event. So this year we had a large event in, when was it, Sunny? February?
It was, yeah, end of January, early
I think
February.
so. January, February, to kind of help with those doldrums, and just staying encouraged. And then again, obviously the one that you're tuning into, a summit sometime in June. So these are really helpful. I think Sunny tries really hard to do content for veterans and for brand new people. So just a way to encourage you. And it's not always just about Sonlight. A lot of times it's about things that are pressing on you, maybe as a mom or a wife or whatever. So it's a really, yeah, it's a really neat offering that Sonlight does.
Yeah, and we're always looking for new topics. So I always like to
Yeah.
tell people, if you've got something you want to know about, ask that in the Sonlight Connections app or ask that of one of our advisors. When I hear that information, that's where a lot of these topics come from. So we do want them to be helpful to you. And these are all based on the questions you ask. So today's session is based on questions that other people have asked Sonlight. So make sure you're letting us know what types of things you would like to see or what you need more help with, and we will record those for you. We also offer other resources like our Sonlight Homeschool blog, which is blog.sonlight.com, where we again talk about different topics that impact homeschoolers that may or may not be academic. We have both there, but they are things that impact different homeschool families. And then also, if you follow any of Sonlight's social media channels, we're on all the big ones: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, like basically all of them that you've heard of. If you follow Sonlight's channels, you'll be able to stay in the loop on what's going on at Sonlight promotionally, and then also get help with various things. So make sure you're following those. But if you are not on social media, that's why we have the Sonlight Connections app. So you're not going to miss out on anything if you do not like to be on social media. You still have all those resources at your fingertips. So let's jump into all of these things that we talked about. If you're watching this session and you're excited to get to the meat of it and find out more, let's start with those instructor's guides, which, as I referenced, that was a huge appeal to me as a non-teacher to even start homeschooling in the first place.
Yeah, the instructor's guides, I like to tell people who come into our booth during conventions that the instructor's guide is just that. It's a guide and it's a friend. It's not a dictator, and it's not, sometimes we have people come in, and if you look at our instructor's guide, it's this big, thick, thing, but it's 36 weeks. It's your whole school year. It's questions to ask. It's the schedule. It's sometimes activity sheets and mapping things. So it's really a wonderful resource. And I know, Sunny, I have just really briefly, this is the week I'm on with my daughter. So here's my instructor's guide, and I've got check marks on it. It tells me what to do for that day. I can check it off, and within it, there are questions to ask about various things. The book that she's reading, that I'm reading aloud to her, I've got notes on that. There's a summary, there's terms that I might not be familiar with, or she might not be familiar with, questions to ask. There are the same beautiful thing with her own readers, where there's questions to ask. A lot of thought has gone into these instructor's guides, and it's 36 weeks of school, typically 4 days a week, although we do offer 5 days also. So 4 or 5 days a week, depending on your family's needs. Once you get to high school, it's always 5 days a week, because high school. But it's just the most wonderful resource. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to spend your time prepping and planning and pulling books together. It's done for you. So yeah, I can't, when I first started homeschooling, there had been other things I looked at that I thought, oh, this would be fun, enjoyable. But then when I look at implementing it, it just was undoable. And so Sonlight for me was the blending of all the things I was looking for. And that instructor's guide was a big part of it.
Yeah, and it's super helpful. I love what you said about it looks overwhelming if you see 36 weeks, that if you've got like language, art, science, and the history, Bible, literature all there. And I know a lot of times people are intimidated when they see the big binder with all the stuff, or they don't know where to find things. But I love when you held up your current week. It's just a few pages for each week. Yeah. And so right. You don't have to be intimidated by it. I always tell people kind of look at it 1 week at a time. Don't even worry about the other stuff until you get to that week. Otherwise, it might feel like a lot. But you said something, Amber, that I totally agree with, and that was that it's a resource. It's kind of anything you could possibly want, but you're not necessarily going to need all of that. So I always tell people, read those notes at the beginning and then use it how it feels the best for your family. So you might have a child who isn't great at being able to tell you what they just heard about, but when you ask them those questions, they can absolutely answer them and tell you exactly what you read to them. Or you might have a child who struggles with specific questions, but if you say, okay, here's a question about this, do you know that answer? They might be able to answer one or two of them. So you can kind of use those discussion questions how you like. Amber mentioned the vocabulary as well. That is something that I use more for me if I'm reading to my student and they say, what does that word mean? And it's a term that, maybe was very common 300 years ago, but it's not anything I've heard of. It's so nice to have that just in the notes where I can, oh, this is what that is, and that makes sense. So having all of those resources there is super helpful, but do not feel intimidated or like you have to do everything one certain way. We will have another session as well where we talk about customizing and modifying your curriculum to meet your needs. But just know that that resource is there. And if you have a question, it's probably been answered in your instructor's guide. So that's the first place to look.
Sunny, one more thing about instructor's guides that a lot of parents run into. Depending on the state you live in, you need to have kind of a record. And so I know the years that I lived in Pennsylvania and homeschooled in Pennsylvania, this was such a gift because I wrote the date. There's a place to write the date. In Pennsylvania, when I lived there, you technically, if they wanted to know what books were you using in this particular week, technically they could ask that question, and that never intimidated me because I had this record and I can show you, here's what we were looking at on that particular week. It's a really nice way of organizing and then record keeping as well.
That's a great point. Yeah. So make sure you use that, mark it up however you need to.
Yeah.
A lot of times people, I think you use the different check marks for your different children too, right? Where you can see which child had done what. And so, yeah, you can definitely reuse that resource or you can repurchase them for younger children. But either way, yeah, like you said, it's a great record of your year and knowing what books you read when and which ones to read next. So it's a great organization tool as well if you want to get those books ready on your bookshelf in a certain order as well. Now let's talk about the Sonlight Connections app. This, like you said, is something that we rolled out a couple of years ago, and we've really worked on modifying it to be exactly what people in the app tell us they want. So we've got the different groups in there. You reference the newbies. Why don't you jump right in and tell us what types of things people can expect in the app, what they'll find there, and how to get plugged into the Sonlight Connections community.
Yeah, well, first of all, there are announcements, right? Like you're going to find, just like Sunny said, if you're not interested in social media, the app is a one-stop shop for you. You can find announcements about what's coming up. You can sign up, register for live events. Not that they cost money, but often there's a registration. The other thing that's in there is live content by the mentors. So every week, a mentor will come onto the app live addressing a question or something, and it's about 10 minutes, but just a way to interact with people who are on that app. Here's something that you can expect if you get on the app. I just jotted these down. For instance, right now, some of the top things. We had a mom write in asking for prayer because she has significant health issues. And she asked for prayer, and she also asked for some advice with schooling throughout that time. So moms chimed in, praying for you, we're sorry, and then here's some thoughts. Someone wrote in asking about how to do 9th grade high school transcript for their developmentally delayed high schooler, 9th grader. And moms jump in who have had experience in there and can help. Another mom wrote in about her 7-year-old gifted student and what to do about that. And is there anybody else here in this app that can talk me through that? We had a few weeks ago a mom from Australia say, where can I find other moms from Australia? She direct messaged me in the app. And so I said, post it on the group and see if there's anybody in the larger group who is in Australia. So Sunny, it runs the gamut, doesn't it? Like there's just so much in there. And it is also a way to direct message There are 6 of us who are veteran homeschoolers like me. So I have 5. I've graduated 4. I still have 1 at home, so I'm still in the thick of it. We have others who've graduated theirs. We're at a few different places, but you can direct message us. That doesn't mean that we can get back to you the instant you write, but we are always checking. So you can pick one of us, whichever one you like best, and direct message us, and we will get back to you and answer questions. But then you have this whole group of moms who are also on there that you ask a question and they will chime in. It's just a really neat resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you highlighted there, that you can meet other homeschool friends. I know this for a lot of people, if you don't live in an area where you know other homeschoolers, or maybe you live far away from where the local homeschool community gathers and does things together, and you're looking for homeschool friends, it's a great place to find that online. Like Amber said, you've got all the mentors in there that are going to bring all their years of experience and their different personalities, their different children, all of these situations that they've experienced, to help you give insights to what might work for your children. And that's something that I love, is having all the different mentors with different perspectives, because what works for somebody may not work for you, but that it's going to work really well for someone else. And so getting to hear that from several different people who have been there, and like Amber said, if you post a question, you're going to hear from other people that are maybe in the same place you are. Maybe they're a year or 2 ahead of you on that journey and they recently dealt with that. Or maybe that was something they dealt with 20 years ago, but they can give you the big picture, light at the end of the tunnel. This is how it worked out, which I know is super encouraging. When I was a new homeschool mom, I was experiencing all of those. Well, can I do this? Is this working? Is my child learning what they should? Like, it seemed like it, but to hear stories from other people who had successfully done this, it just gave me that reassurance of, oh yeah, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like, or I can keep going. Or if you're struggling with something, to hear from somebody else who has already worked through that issue is super helpful. And one of my favorite things in the app are the lives that the mentors do, or the photos that people share of how they're homeschooling, or you see their box day photos, or look at this experiment that worked out the way we wanted it to. And so it's really fun, I think, if are, again, not around a lot of other homeschoolers, or maybe you don't have that community in real life, to be able to be surrounded by other people that are on the same page with you, that will celebrate the accomplishments with you, that will discuss their favorite Sonlight books with you, whatever it is that you're going through. It's a really fun community to be a part of. So if you are looking for that community piece, even if you don't think you have any questions, I still would encourage you to get into the Sonlight Connections app, because you'll see what's going on at Sonlight as well. So you'll be aware of the promotions that are happening, when the best time to buy your curriculum is. You'll get those live sessions, as well as like homeschool helps and hacks. And so you'll get all sorts of great advice that maybe you don't need to apply now, but 3 years from now you will. So we just really encourage you to get in there, ask your questions, be a part of the community, and spend time with us, because it does make your homeschool journey a lot better when you're not trying to do it on your own.
Yeah. And even Sunny, some of the moms who might be a little further along on their journey and might think they don't need that app to help them, they probably could add a lot of encouragement and advice. Even if you just downloaded it and checked it once a week and just kind of scrolled and said, is there a mom on here that I can encourage? We would love to have you joining us in giving encouragement to these moms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And celebrating the accomplishments, because that's, it's not just, oh, I need help with this. Well, also show us what you've done or what you discovered. I get ideas all the time from other people who said, oh, I put my IG in a binder like this, and I use sticky tabs, or I use a rolling cart, or whatever it is that they're doing. I get ideas that I'm like, ooh, I'm going to try that one, or I'm going to borrow that one. So yes, even if you've done it for years, there's a lot to be had in there. And like Amber said, we would love the wisdom of those of you who have been doing it for a long time. So join us. What about the advisors and customer relations? I know a big question often for new homeschoolers is, what do I even order? They're still trying to wrap their mind around Sonlight and how you order your package or packages
Yeah.
if you have multiple children. What are some of the resources that they can offer as well that are maybe a little different than what you find in the app with the mentors?
Yeah, I think for our advisors and our customer relations, so that's business hours, right? That's Monday through Friday. They're on Mountain Time. I think, is that right, Sunny? They're all
That
on
is
Mountain
right.
Time.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
Mountain Time.
So they're on Mountain Time, but these are people who have used Sonlight curriculum also, which I think is fantastic because I don't know of too many companies, especially curriculum companies, that if you call, you are absolutely going to talk to someone who's actually used the product.
Hmm.
We don't hire high schoolers or somebody, college students who we teach a little bit about the product and then say, here, please answer questions. It's not like that. These are customers who have used the product and who know it backwards and forwards, who are available to say to you, hey, I think that buying 5 levels in 1 year is probably not wise. Let's pare it down and figure out how we can help you to be successful, which is what I think is really, really wonderful. So you have advisors and customer relation people who are actually, their goal is not just to sell you a product, but to make sure that you're successful with the product that you buy. And so, yes, we believe in our product, but we don't want to overwhelm you. We want to make sure you get what you want. I know some people will even post on the app, oh no, I got my order and the binder was smashed and this book was, whatever. That's awesome. Call. They will make
Hmm.
it right. They will help you. And there are many times I get questions on the app that I actually can't answer, that it's an advisor they need to talk to. So those people are invaluable for your journey. And when you buy your curriculum through Sonlight, they are available to you
Hmm.
for any questions you might have, which especially early on is such a huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, even once you kind of have your plan, if you've been doing this for several years and you kind of know, oh, my child's going to do this level and then they're going to do this level. But as new products come out, I still oftentimes will
Yeah.
reach out and say, okay, my older child was going to do this and now this new product came out. Which one has better reviews, or have you looked at it? Which one do you like better?
Yeah.
And like Amber said, that product knowledge is so good, that they have. They've looked at everything and they know it inside and out. And so I even run those decisions by them. I always have customer relations check out my cart and make sure I didn't forget something,
Yeah.
because early on I would forget small things like my book labels or maybe timeline figures for a second child that I had used the first time around or anything like that. So that option is available in your cart, like on the website. You can hit a check cart and an advisor will go in and look at that and make sure that you don't have duplicates or that you're not missing something you might need. So
Yes.
so that is super helpful. And like Amber said, if you get a book that's smashed or you're missing one or something has water damage, I know for me, sometimes FedEx leaves my boxes in a pile of snow at the end of the driveway. And so sometimes you end up with situations like that in transit, and Sunlight does always make it right. So if you ever have an issue like that, reach out to us. Like Amber said, they are only available during Mountain Time, but you can send an email and they will follow up with you the
Yeah.
next day. Or if
Yeah.
you just have any like general questions, even if it's not them, they will direct you to the right place. So you can email main, MAIN, at sonlight.com, and that's going to go to that team and they will get you going in the right direction. Or you can always call if you need to talk to someone. You can also send them prayer requests as well. We do pray for you in the app at Sonlight as a company. We have a prayer meeting every morning where we pray for our customers. So if you have a prayer request, you can send that to them there. You can post it in one of our community groups or reach out to any of us, send us a DM, and we will make sure that that gets taken to the daily prayer meeting as well. So that is something we do every morning. So if you have a prayer request, let us know that. We would love to pray for you. And if you post it in the app, there will be other Sonlighters praying for you as well. So that's also super helpful if you're willing to share it.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
let's talk about those online events. You talked about our retreat back
Yeah.
in January, and obviously the summit is a free online event. Sonlight does events throughout the year, and we do not charge for them. So this is a huge resource that I don't think people always know is out
Mhm.
there. Um, but let's talk a little bit more detail, like what types of things we talk about in the events and what things people can learn or expect to receive by attending these events.
Yeah, I think, well, let's see. Some of the things that stick out to me is the fears, right? We try to address the fears that we have as homeschoolers, right? Whether that is, am I really preparing my child for high school? Am I really preparing them for college? What am I forgetting? What am I leaving out? So there are those sorts of things. Another thing that I think we hit often in our summits is how can I possibly school this many students all together? Okay, so I happen to be a mom of multiples, right? So I have 5 children. So how do we make Sonlight work for 5 children? How do we make it work for 7 children? Whatever it is. Can I possibly be doing school with my first grader and my third grader? How do I keep my preschooler and my 2-year-old busy? And I'm a nursing mom, and so we've been there, we've done it. So we try to tailor information for you. I'm trying to think. Organization is a big thing. People often have questions, how do we organize? So we try to hit that from all different angles. How do I organize the books? How do I organize my schooling space? What do I need in order to successfully homeschool it at home? What is the maybe what does my space even need to look like? Do I need a million bookshelves, or what do I have? Build my own house, build my own schoolroom out back. So I think those are some big ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought up the fears. We actually, our next session today will be all answering kind of those hot topic homeschool questions or the things that come up. And a lot of times they are fears, right? Am I preparing my student? Or maybe you've homeschooled your child since the beginning and now they're entering high school and you feel like you're at a total loss when it comes to creating a transcript. What do you do for graduation? How do you help your child figure out their life goals, all of those things. And so we do try, like Amber said earlier, to hit on topics that are going to be appropriate, whether you have newborns or you have those high schoolers. Maybe you have some that are already graduated and some still at home. But we want those to be relevant topics for you. And that's something that you can watch online. So if you are saying, oh, I had no idea these existed, how do I find them? You can either watch them on Sonlight's YouTube channel, which is just at Sonlight, or you can go on the conventions page on our website. And we have a ton of old helps and hacks and Sonlight Connections Summit and all of our different events that we've done. Like Amber referenced earlier, we try to do 2 big events a year, one that is more encouragement, no matter what stage of the journey you're in, and then the summit that is helpful if you're new to Sonlight and or new to homeschooling and trying to figure out where to go from here. So like I said earlier, though, if there's something that you can't find that you want us to talk about, we absolutely will. Send us those questions and we will make sure to cover those things. So that's something I think super helpful that you may not even realize you need a topic. Also, if it's something a little more controversial, I do like to address some of those things as well. So maybe you're
Yeah.
wondering where Sonlight books come from. Can
Mhm.
you homeschool successfully if you're working full time? Topics like that, we address those things as well. So anything like that that you want to hear, definitely let us know that.
Yeah, Sunny, I was even thinking, we get often comments like, oh, is the material in the Sonlight books, like, is it too mature? Is there
Mhm.
language? Is there this? Is there that? Like, we talk about all sorts of things. And I think even encouragement, right? Most homeschoolers have this experience that there are some prickly people in their lives who are naysayers to homeschooling. So I think that's another big thing that we try to provide encouragement and how to handle some of those things. Just thoughts and ideas that you might not come up with on your own. And so then you have this smorgasbord of ideas and options available to you to pick and choose what you like.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because just that support too of being with other homeschoolers who get what you're going through and they
Yeah.
understand it, right? Because, like you said, a lot of homeschoolers, especially I think pre 2020, I feel like for me personally, at least post pandemic, people are a little more receptive to homeschooling. But the comments I would get from strangers at the store when I was there with my children when I first started out, and I was too early in my experience to have the confidence to
Yeah.
even know how to answer
Mhm.
them. And so, yeah, that having that community of homeschoolers that can tell you, well, this is what I do, or here's how I handle it if maybe my own family is not supportive of this decision to homeschool. And so things like that, it's super, super helpful. And I would encourage you, don't try to homeschool alone.
Yeah.
I am a natural introvert, and my tendency is to, I've got this, I don't need anybody's help. But the longer I have done this and been around other people that are like-minded and understand, the more I realize the benefits. So I would encourage you, even if you're like, oh, I don't know, I think I'm good. You might still want to get in there and check out some of those resources because you will learn a lot and benefit from that. And like we were talking about in the events, those topics, we also have the Sunlight blog that explains some of those. So if you
Mhm.
prefer to read those things, or Sunlight social media channels, where you can again see encouragement, see how other people are utilizing their sunlight. Is there anything else that you would offer, maybe that we have forgotten to mention, or something that you have
Mhm.
found beneficial while you've homeschooled, or any other resources maybe that I'm forgetting to mention here?
I don't think so, Sunny. I think you laid it out really well. Like we've hit the big ones. I think I would just love to say when early on, the fact that there was someone at Sunlight that I could email and get a response. And back then, I mean, even now, I don't think people expect it like instantaneously necessarily, but there was someone like that for me. I would email questions. I would feel so overwhelmed and kind of hesitant to ask, but I would email and I would get the most gracious response. And it was so helpful. And it just put me at ease. And I was good for the rest of the year. So it wasn't even like the thing is, when you have it available to you, it is such a blessing. So take advantage of it. There's no reason to struggle and be scared and nervous, and no one's judging you if you have a question. So ask your questions. Somebody will help you either on the advising and customer relations side or the encouragement and simple questions side on the app. Um, this is what we're about, and we want to help you and encourage you. And so I know it was such a blessing to me as a young homeschool mom, and even for a while to be able to, until I really really thought, okay, I've got this down. But now it's a real gift to me to be able to help others. So yeah, I think it makes Sunlight a little bit special.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you do have that connection, that shared experience with other Sunlighters. And so, yeah, if you're not part of the community, definitely join us in there. And like Amber said, do not be embarrassed about your questions. We all started somewhere. And so we probably all had similar questions to begin with. And we hear some of those a lot because
Yep.
they're important. So make sure that you are asking those questions. And I love what you said. Yeah, passing it along once you are
Yeah.
confident about what you've done, or maybe you have used the level that somebody is asking about and you can
Mhm.
provide insight because you just read that book with your student. I always love when people ask questions about the levels I'm actively doing because I can tell you, oh, last week, this is what I did.
Yep.
So, yeah, so make sure to join us in the community. We would love to support you and pray for you and have you be a part of that group. And Amber, thank you so much for being here today and highlighting
You're
some of
welcome.
these resources here at Sunlight.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.